Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Glowhood podcast. It's your girl, your host, Danielle Mame. How are y'all doing? I hope y'all are having a wonderful February. I hope everything that you wished and dreamed for in 2025 is slowly but surely coming to happen, coming to fruition. I hope y'all are doing great. And I want to get into another topic that is similar to last episode. It is delayed, not denied. So the setback is the setup, okay? So I know that a lot of us have gone through our trials and tribulations in life, just things that you wanted, things that you felt like you deserved at a particular time and you didn't get it, and you thought you probably internalized it and thought that maybe you didn't deserve it, or maybe you were expecting too much, or maybe it just didn't work out and you really don't know why. Well, I want to let you know that just because something gets delayed does not mean you get denied. You have to remember they are not the same thing. Delayal and denial are not the same. Just because you don't have it right now doesn't mean you'll never get it. It just means that you're not getting it right now or at that particular moment that you want it. And I want to get into a couple of things. So the first being the frustration of delay. I know what that feels like personally, because my life, I feel like in my own personal life, things are always delayed. It's always like I have to wait an extra 5 years for whatever it is that I'm trying to work for, as opposed to other people where if they want it, they get it instantly. And for a long time, it was so frustrating. It was so discouraging because I always am like, am I not good enough? Am I not worthy enough? And it makes you question your self-esteem. It makes you question your intentions. It makes you even question if you're on the right path. But that's the thing, the beauty of life is just because you don't have it right now does not mean you will never have it. So one example that I will point out in my own personal life is, actually I have a few examples, but one that's a little bit more generic and maybe more relatable to you guys is my college experience. So when I was in high school, I was trying to go to the local state school out here. And at the time, because I was super low income and I basically had to work while I was in school, and mind you, this is like back in the early 2000s. So the way that the application system was to apply to schools, like you had to pay. So each school that you applied for was $50. And at the time, I only had money for one school. So I applied to that one school. I got in, but it was a conditional acceptance. So I needed to pass one class and I would be able to attend the school. Well, as luck would have it, that was the only class that I didn't pass in my entirety of being in high school. And I don't know if that was just the pressure of how everything was going. And I was banking on going to college and banking on getting into that school. And it was, at the time, like looking back, it's so crazy because I'm actually very good at math. But at the time, I don't know if it was the way they were teaching it or it was just like the teacher in particular just did not care. Because I kept asking, like, I need help. Can you help me? Can you show me how to understand this concept a little bit better? Because anytime I'd ask, he'd always be like, oh, just go look in the book. And I'm like, hello, I already looked in the book. That's why I'm not understanding what's going on. That's why I came to you, the teacher, to ask for clarity. But, it would always be like, oh, just go look in the book, go look in the book. So after a while, I just stopped asking because it's like, doesn't matter what I do, you're not going to help me. Cool. The second to last day of school, after I basically get my non-passing grade, I didn't flunk, but I also didn't pass either. I got a D in that class. And all the other classes, like pretty much everything else, I got A's and B's in. So this was the one class that I didn't flunk, but I also didn't pass. So this was the one class that was basically holding me back from going to college. And the second to last day of school, the teacher came up to me after, we're signing yearbooks and all that stuff. And he was like, oh, did you need this class for anything? And I was like, yeah, I needed it to go to, the school. I mentioned the school's name. And he's like, oh, why didn't you ask me? I could have helped you. And I was like, are you serious, my dude? I was literally asking you all year. And you kept telling me to look in the textbook. And obviously, if I didn't already look in the textbook and didn't understand it, I wouldn't have come to you in the first place, because I'm not the type of person to ask first. I do my research, and if I still don't understand, then I go ask to see if I can get some clarity. Anyways, he was just like, oh, well, good luck. And I was like, wow. All right, no problem. So long story short, I ended up going to local community college. I hated it over there. And then eventually I just left the country and I went to a different school, out of the country. I went to live in Africa for a little while. And then, I went to school out there. It was cool. And basically I didn't get into the school that I wanted to get into, but that actually set me up to go to an even better school. Because even though I went to a school in Africa, and I know how the perception of Africa is, but that school is like a top school. It's on the level of like a Harvard or Princeton. Like, it's on that level of, academics. So I ended up going to that school over there. And, to this day, I still have some friends who I was able to meet over there. I was able to do a lot more things than I would have done out here. I went into the pageant. I did a whole bunch of stuff. Like, I lived my college experience. So the thing that I was worried about not experiencing, I ended up experiencing it, but even better than I could have ever wished for. So long story short, just want to say delayal is not denial. So just know that you're basically getting the setback that you think that you're experiencing is actually the setup for something greater. In how our lives go, things that are delayed just means that it's just not quite the right time. It just means that it's just not that particular moment. And the reason being could be anything. We don't know how God works. We don't know what the delay is for. It could be to save your life. It could be to make sure that you are fully prepared for whatever you're asking for. It could be any number of reasons, but just know that if you are going through setbacks and you feel like you're not progressing, just know that, just keep trying. Don't give up. Keep going. Make sure that you're able to still keep that momentum, because that momentum is key. You don't want to give up when you're on your first or second, third take. You don't know how many takes it's going to take. You don't know how long it's going to take. So you just got to keep on trucking. Make sure you keep on going till you get the result that you are aiming for. And don't expect it to be an overnight thing. Not everyone gets everything on the first shot. You actually learn a lot more lessons in your losses than you do in your wins. So the fact that you're able to have multiple tries to be successful means that when you finally do become successful, you've already gone through all the trials and tribulations. So you kind of already know how to navigate certain things to avoid an even bigger fallout. You are able to avoid a calamity of sorts. You don't have to worry about, dang, I got it on my first go, and now I have this major contract and I don't want to mess it up. And if you mess it up, then it costs millions of dollars, versus like if you start off, very slowly, you have one minor, you're building up your reputation, you're building up your clientele or whatever it is. And, you make little mistakes here and there, and then you are able to adjust and okay, that didn't work this time. Let me do it this way. And then maybe that'll be better. And then you get feedback that, oh yeah, that's actually way better. I like this method. I like this direction that you're going. You can go from there. And then that way you're able to log in all of those little tiny mistakes in order to avoid a bigger, costlier mistake in the long run. So I say all that to say, don't give up. And if you need some other world examples, we can go with this. For all you music heads out there, I'm sure, I don't know exactly if my audience pays attention to hip hop and rap. I am a huge hip hop head. I don't know if I've ever told you guys that, but I listen to hip hop. Like, that is my number one genre, followed by R&B and, the other ones. But I'm a huge Kendrick fan. I've been a Kendrick fan since 2010. Way before, he became mainstream, or way before he even released like his major hits. So I've been rocking with Kendrick. And mind you, discovered him when I was out of the country. I didn't even discover him out here in America. I listened to him out when I was in Africa. And, if you have been a recent fan or you've been a longtime listener of his music, you know his capabilities. And with this recent rap beef, a lot of people are underestimating him. And for all of us who are huge Kendrick fans, we're like, dang, he should be bigger, or he should have more notoriety, or all this stuff. And it seems like his success is not understated, but it's not as mainstream as like those of us who really listen to him would think that he would be. Basically, we saw what happened. He is now a global superstar, even more so. He was already one, but like now he's a huge global hit. So it took him a while to get there, but he kept on being consistent, even with the gaps that he had between his albums. He had 5-year gaps, I believe, between Damn and Mr. Morale. And I remember that gap because I was waiting for a long time for some music from Kendrick. And, we were all pleasantly surprised when his newest album came out. And, all of us are just, waiting, seeing what's going on, seeing how people underestimate other people just because they're not always out in your face, or if they're not always in the spotlight, people tend to underestimate somebody's capabilities. That recency bias is a big one. It's a doozy, because sometimes people forget that you're being nice, or you're being selective, or you're being humble with how you approach things, but that doesn't mean that you can't check somebody if you need to check them. And it's always funny to see when people underestimate you and you're just like, no, I don't want to do that. Not because I can't, but because I don't want to. And I feel like in my own personal life, there's a lot of things where there's times where I've been just really mellow, and I haven't what's the word I'm looking for? I haven't got up in anybody's face to be like, oh yeah, I can do this, I can do that. I'm just very like low key. And then when I do pop out, then people are like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you knew that. It's like, yeah, just because I don't say everything doesn't mean it's not there. Like, I'm somebody who's very observant. So I peep a lot of stuff. I may not talk about it, but I see it. And when I see it, I just keep it to myself, unless obviously it's something pertinent that needs to be addressed. If it's not, just keep it, file it, log it, and move on. But again, getting back on topic, delayal and denial are not the same thing. You really do have to trust the process. You have to stay the course. You have to make sure that you don't give up. Having patience, being prepared, and being persistent, the 3 P's, those will take you far. It will take you very far in life. So let me ask you guys a question. What is one thing you can do today to stay ready for your breakthrough? Do you guys have anything in mind? You guys can let me know in the comments, or you can let me know in, I believe on Spotify, you can let me know on there as well in the comments. And I have some more questions actually, and I actually want to get to know my audience a little bit better. So I have a few questions. The first one being, have you ever felt like you were ready for something, but it just wasn't happening? And how did that make you feel? As you guys heard my story, it made me feel sad, but then I came up on top at the end. My second question, looking back, can you think of a time when a delay actually worked out in your favor? So the setback is the setup. Let me know a time when you had a setback that actually turned out to be a setup. And then what's one setback that you currently are facing and that might actually be setting you up for something greater? Do you guys have anything in mind? Are you guys going through anything where initially you thought it would never work out? You thought it would not be what you thought it was, and then it ended up being 15, 20, a million times better than whatever you thought. And then how do you actually respond to delays? Do you push harder, or do you get discouraged, or do you take a step back and then reassess the process? So let me know what you guys think. And my final question would be, if you knew for sure that your dream would come true in the right time, how would you move differently today? So we're going to go off of the strength of faith, and we're going to go off of the promise and the positivity of things will always work out for you for the better. So if you know that any and everything that you're going through in life right now is going to always work out for you, how would you move differently? How would you change how you approach things? Would you take those setbacks and be discouraged, or would you take those setbacks and know that it's a setup for something greater? Let me know, y'all. All right. Well, thank you again for listening to another episode of the Glowhood podcast. You can find me on all social media, all that good stuff. Reach out to me. Let me know if these episodes are helping you with whatever you're going through. Let me know if you want to hear certain topics. And I will catch you on the next one. Bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Glowhood podcast. If you like this episode and would like to see more episodes like this, please subscribe and follow Glowhood by visiting www.glowhood.com, or you can follow us on all social media platforms at Glowhood Podcast. If you would also like to support the show, you can visit our Patreon at patreon.com/glowhood, where you can join for as little as $3 a month. You'll have access to exclusive content like bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes footage, monthly Q&As, and more. Thank you again for your support, and I'll see you on the next episode.